So these are 7 factors of communication that we should all strive for in all of our conversations or writings. Um, your handout, I gave you a handout because it gives you a brief description of each one of these. And you, of course, have to make some adjustments depending on the purpose of your communications. Not all of these are going to work when you're standing bedside, but we believe you already have your pitches or scripts down pat and you know the basics of good communication. So what we want to talk about today is really regarding like typical communication like this is just really thinking about reviewing what your messaging is compared to these 7 factors to see if any need tweaking or might be beneficial. So if you just want to take a couple of minutes and look at your handout and think about what you say as you're introducing yourself, as you're talking about the program, and we're just going to take just a few minutes with this, but let's just kind of see. I'm sure you're courteous. I'm sure you're uh, concise because you don't have any time, but are you capturing or stating all of the information? Are you being complete, like everything they would need to know in such a short amount of time to know enough about the program to enroll? Or are you correct? Like, are you sure you're saying the right thing? I know sometimes you get last minute changes, like it's got to be referred they've got to be referred somewhere else because of a problem or a agency or a hospital being full or whatever. So just briefly, just kind of look at these and just ask yourself. I'm not going to ask you to share it with everybody else right now, but just ask yourself, are you covering at least somewhat all of these 7 factors for effective communication? And that's not easy. I know you don't have much time. So that's why this is not going to be the focus of today, but it's a really good tool, again, for all communication, regardless of what it is. And the point of effective communications is to communicate the message, right? So if you can just consider, if you're really hitting on all of these topics, all of these factors to make sure that the message is clear, especially because of your limited time.
That handout is in the chat box if you don't have it handy.
Thank you, Melissa. And, like one of the ones I was thinking of that you might have to adjust is concrete. You're not going in to say, bop, 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 right? You're trying to engage in a conversation. It's not really so much concrete. The information is, but as far as the communicating of it, you probably have a softer approach. And then considered, I don't know what you would do with that one, honestly, at bedside. Like, is that you know the information, so you don't have to consider it. So, again, these could be tweaked a little bit depending on the circumstances. And I think that especially in your position, you probably can't do all 7, but 5 out of 7 would probably be good. And does anybody have any questions about this? And again, your handout has more descriptions so that you can kind of see what each of these really mean, but I'm not sure I follow all of these all of the time. So it was a good reminder for me too. All right, if you don't have any questions, and again, this is something, if you have it written out somewhere, like when you initially started explaining the program or trying to, I don't know, influence a mom to let you assess them or, whatever it is, I'm sure you've got probably several different types, but just keep this in mind for the words you're saying. Okay, so we all need a reality check about this, just like I was talking about. You don't have much time. So again, I'm not expecting you to really be able to go through the 7-part checklist or anything like that. It's just for you to really, when we practice something on a regular basis, it becomes a habit, right? So once it's a habit, you don't have to think about it. That saves you more time. Now, we want it to be automatic, those 7 factors, but you can use your body language, which actually makes up 93% of what you communicate to another person, to greatly enhance the 7% of what you're saying. So that is really the one thing that will improve your effectiveness more than any other communication. Only 7% of what you say, words, is the whole communication that the other person is receiving. The rest is your body, your facial expression, your tone of voice. It's all about Well, I guess it is from the top down, but it's not, except for the mouth. It's not the words. So we're going to start with a little video here to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about. And then we'll dive a little deeper into some of these as well as some additional suggestions. And the wrong screen is sharing. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay.
To communicate effectively, we must establish likability, credibility,
Okay, there we go. Sorry, something's wrong with my color.
and authority in order to gain another person's trust. From small movements of your hands to the way you stand, body language is a powerful form of nonverbal communication that most of us express and interpret completely unconsciously. But we can learn how to better present ourselves and improve our daily interactions through conscious effort and practice. Whether it's first impressions, which tend to become permanent, or a short time span to negotiate with or sway someone, body language is a powerful influencer. Consider facial expressions. One study found the most trustworthy expression involves a slight rise of the eyebrows and a slight smile. This expression conveys both friendliness and confidence. Posture is critical. Stand or sit straight. No slouching or slumping. If you're sitting, don't lean against the back of the chair. Scoot forward about 1/3 of the way. Leaning slightly forward increases both likability and credibility. Conversely, leaning even slightly backwards decreases both. Pay attention to your toes and torso. Unconsciously, we point our toes and our torso towards what we're most interested in. Directly facing the person you're talking to increases credibility and authority specifically, and the other person will listen more to what you're saying and trust you more. Try not to cross your arms or legs, which can be perceived as closed off, defensive, or even irritated. Remember, we all instinctively read body language, so it doesn't matter if the perception is true or not. Show your palms. Why did humans start shaking hands? To show the other person that they did not have a weapon. Evolutionary-wise, we feel safer and more secure if we can see another person's palms. We trust people if we see the palms of their hands while they are speaking to us. So, keep your hands in front of you as much as possible. Make sure there are no physical barriers between you and the other person. Even consider how you hold a device or a clipboard. Is it blocking the space between you and the listener? Mirror the body language of the person you're speaking with to drastically increase likability. One of the fastest ways to build a personal connection quickly is through eye contact. Good eye contact shows that you're paying attention, helps you read their facial expressions, and often makes you feel and appear more confident. Keep in mind that if you make poor eye contact, your listener may assume you're insecure, bored, or lack self-confidence, even if you don't feel that way. Touch is a powerful persuasion if and when appropriate. Gently touch the listener's elbow for half of a second with an open palm. One study showed just touching someone lightly on the elbow increases compliance by 76%. Personal space is a simple yet critical part of body language. It's roughly a 4-foot radius around someone, although it can vary depending on the person. Typically, only family and close friends step within this area, so unless you share a close relationship with the other person, stand around 4 feet or a little more away as you speak with the listener. If you get too close, the other person may feel uncomfortable or even threatened by your presence. and they may not register your words due to their discomfort. Are they looking away, speaking in short bursts, or even backing away from you? If so, you might be too close. Recognizing and respecting personal space will ensure your message isn't lost due to distance. Body language affects how others see us, and it may also change how we see ourselves. Start paying attention to areas where you might need some improvement and practice until it becomes natural. You'll be a much better communicator if you do.
Okay. So again, we're going to talk about this now, and I'm going to ask you for some feedback because, of course, your situation is very unique in what you're doing. I know sometimes you probably don't have much space. Maybe you have to be closer than 4 feet when you first approach the person, or maybe you have to stand further back because of other people being in the room. But overall, what we're trying to do here is really consider that that potential client needs to trust you in order to believe you and be open to the opportunities of the program, right? So whether you're aware of it or not, when you interact with anyone, you're continuously giving and receiving wordless signals. All of your nonverbal behaviors, the gestures you make, your posture, your tone of voice, how much eye contact you make, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail, but they all send really strong signals. So they can put people at ease, build trust, and draw others towards you, or they can offend, confuse, or undermine what you're trying to do or say. So these messages don't stop when you stop speaking, right? It doesn't matter. I know I really used to forget about body language, and I didn't realize the impact of it until I was a supervisor. And I used to have a thing about keeping everything crossed. I don't know what that was about, but I tended to have my legs crossed, my arms crossed. It was just my natural position. And it's really off-putting to people. So even if they don't even know it consciously, it's subconscious, a lot of this. So just remember, even when you're silent, you're still communicating non-verbally. Now, body language is cultural. So since we're in the West, today we're focusing on Western body language that helps you communicate and persuade. There are differences. We'll talk about one with gestures, but all right. Facial expressions. So unlike other forms of nonverbal communication, facial expressions are universal. This is the only thing that's really consistent across the board. They're the same regardless of culture. The facial expressions for happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, and disgust are all the same, no matter where you are in the world. So just think about what you can say with your face, and think about what you want to immediately convey to a new parent. How many of you read the facial expressions to determine whether you think, and I'm going to stop this share for a second. How many of you pay attention to the facial expressions, or do you consciously, of a new mom or a new dad or a new parent when you walk in? Yes. Okay. I see one hand up. Yeah. Two. Right. That's giving you cues. Of course you do, Tina. I knew you did that. If we pay attention, and it's harder for you because that person may not feel well, right? When you walk in, they're tired, or maybe they're in pain, or maybe they're freaked out or whatever. And so it's really important that you pay attention to what's going on with their face, because that can help direct you as to maybe how you should approach, right? If you see that they don't look happy, to walk in and go, oh, this is so great, may not be the right approach. And so you can tell that almost instantaneously with facial expressions. And there's tons of available information out there about what every kind of expression means. I'm going to show you one for you to use. But really look into it if this is a tool you're not using, because it can really help you. Can we pull this back up again? All right. Now, the facial expression I do want to show you, it's the most trustworthy expression. That's the one that Melissa mentioned in the video, but it's a slight rise of the eyebrows and a slight smile. So I want everybody to give me a slight rise of the eyebrows and a slight smile. That's a big smile, Tina. Slight. You don't want to begin with. This is the one that's going to.
Sorry,
I'm
I'm not
kidding.
pretending. That just.
I'm not good at it either. I'm a big.
You know how hard it is to just slightly raise your eyebrows? I'm like over here, I'm either really big or.
I know, look how high mine go. Okay, so but the point is, the reason I'm asking you to do this is practice it in the mirror. So you want just a slight smile and a little bit of a raise of your eyebrows. And Sonia, see, if you start laughing all the time, you're not
I know.
going to be able to keep the smiles.
I'm trying not to laugh. Everybody going.
I know, but you have to practice. And again, if you practice, it becomes natural. You won't even have to think about it after a while. All right, good job. All right. Now, body movement and posture, very important. And again, very easy to do. It doesn't take any time. None of this really takes any time, right? Which is critical for you, because if you can get your body doing the work for you, then you can just focus on the message and you'll come out way ahead. Now, this type of nonverbal communication includes your posture, bearing, stance, and the subtle movements you make. And this is where you want to practice the toes and torso that Melissa mentioned in the video. Both should be facing the client. And again, I know you're going to have some circumstances where that's not possible, but you really want to try to make sure whatever little cramped space you're in, you can angle so that your toes and torso are facing the new parent. Okay. Now, if you are, regardless of whether you're sitting or standing, you want to try to lean slightly forward. And it's harder if you're standing, but it's really important because of the subconscious message it sends. So when you lean forward, it's the feeling the other person has is interest, that you're very interested in them. Okay. And again, like I said, avoid crossing anything. I don't know where in the world I got that from, but it really sends a signal that you're defensive or not to be trusted. And that's not going to help you, right, when you've got just a few minutes to do all of this. Don't place your hands behind your back. This signals that you're being dishonest or disingenuous. And neither one of those you don't want to do. And of course, you could be holding a weapon. This is the funniest thing because it's such an ancient thing that we carried. Well, I guess I shouldn't say it's ancient. It happens now, but psychologically, this is one of the most powerful things that you can do is, as we'll talk about a little more. In fact, it's that important with the hands. So make sure they can at least see your hands. Now, our body movement and posture affect how we feel about ourselves as well. So we're going to do another little just quick exercise here. So what I want you to do is I want you to lean back in your chair and just slouch. Oh, it's the end of the day. You're tired. So just lean back, right? Just lean back. I don't know. Sprawl your legs out if you can.
Gloria has disappeared from the camera.
That's a good slouch. And then what I want you to do right now as you're doing that is just notice how you feel. You're slouching. You're relaxing, right? You're back. Okay.
Tired.
Okay.
Like, I wanna...
Now, what I want you to do is I want you to sit up and I want you to pull your rear end at least a third of the way off the back, from the back of the chair. Shoulders up. And now just check in. How do you feel the difference of how you feel when you're sitting like this versus this? Right? There's a big difference. Can you tell how interested I am in you if I'm sitting like this? Right? If I am like this and I'm looking at you and commenting, right? Can you feel the difference? It's a feeling. Now, it's a little different here because we can all see each other and it's kind of, awkward or funny, but it's really important that you keep that in mind. So when you walk into a hospital room or you get on Zoom even, keep in mind what your posture is and sit up straight. And the best way to sit up straight is to not have anything against the back of your chair during that conversation. So that's why we ask you to scoot your rear end up a little bit. If you're standing, the same thing. You can lean forward a little bit. I can't do it a lot, or maybe I'm just klutzy. I can't lean forward very well when I'm standing because, there's that feeling of toppling over, but keep that in mind. That's a very important tip. Okay. All right. Now let's talk a minute about gestures. A lot of us talk with our hands, right? We do. I am a hand talker. Being on Zoom has changed a lot of that. I suddenly am not such a hand talker because I can't, right? I can't do this. So a lot of times you don't see my hands anymore. And I think this may be another reason why we have trouble really connecting online, because we can't see each other's body language. But gestures, everybody uses gestures, but here's one example, which is the okay sign. And there's even, we have an emoji that's an okay sign. The meaning of some gestures can be very different across cultures. And this is important for you to factor in because you've got parents of different cultures, right? When you don't know anything about them and their beliefs and all of that when you walk in the door, or maybe even where they're from. So while the okay sign that we make with the hand, it's like, okay, it is It conveys usually a positive message in English speaking countries, but it's considered very offensive in countries such as Germany, Russia, and Brazil. And in Brazil, it's the equivalent of giving someone the middle finger. So we don't do that. We don't do this to give somebody the finger, right? But that's what it means in Brazil. In Kuwait and other parts of the Arab world, the shaking of the sign like this represents the evil eye, and it's used as a curse or a threat. So again, it's important to be careful of how you use gestures to avoid misinterpretation. And I would strongly suggest that you keep any gestures to a minimum. So you don't want to have to, I mean, there's all kinds of information available to tell you everything that's offensive that we do gesture wise with other cultures. But if you just avoid using any kind of a gesture, then you're kind of safer. Not that you can use your hands. I just mean, don't make gestures, like just don't use them. And that way you won't accidentally offend somebody. Now, eye contact. The way you look at someone can communicate many things, including interest, affection, hostility, or attraction. And the reason that, because Melissa covered this in the video, but the reason I'm coming back to this is because many people are uncomfortable holding eye contact. So if this applies to you, then I'm going to give you some tips. So if you're not that comfortable just staring a person in the eye, well, I'm going to talk about how long in a minute, but if you're not comfortable doing that, and that's a perfectly natural sort of trait. A lot of people are uncomfortable with it. And a lot of people also, again, this is cultural. Sometimes it's gender-based where we've been taught, it's rude. So a lot of people are not that comfortable with it. So first, if that's the case, practice on people you know. Don't do it with potential clients, but just with people try focusing on the spot between their eyes. So instead of looking them directly in the eye, look right here in between. That's much less uncomfortable. And just do it for a second or two. This is just to get you in the habit of looking right here at the person, okay? And then practice it during short conversations, again, with people that you know and trust. And then once you get comfortable with that, then you can move on to direct eye contact. And then once you're comfortable, try it all again with people you don't know as well. So you may have to start with looking in the center and then work your way up.
I think Fatima has a question, Teresa.
Oh, good. Okay.
For me at the hospital, I think it's like the opposite because the moms just gave birth, they are tired and they're not looking their best.
Yeah.
That when I'm giving the eye contact, I feel like they're the ones that are uncomfortable with it at times and they're looking away. And so
Yeah.
I kind of pick up on that. And so sometimes that causes me to want to break the eye contact because I feel like I'm making them uncomfortable.
That is an excellent point.
Yeah.
That's a really good cue for you to pick up on too. If you are making them uncomfortable, then maybe don't hold it the entire time.
Yeah. And that's back to paying attention to facial expressions, eye contact, because you want the mom to be as comfortable as possible, or the dad. I keep saying mom, I'm sorry, the person to be as comfortable as possible, right? So by paying attention, that's how you're going to do it. And you can adjust accordingly. So I will say another thing about this, which kind of ties into this, especially for someone that maybe they're not comfortable, like the potential client, is maintain eye contact only for 4 to 5 seconds at a time. And again, this is going to feel awkward. That's why practice on other people so that you're not thinking of all these things when you go into the room. But you want to just look at them for 4 to 5 seconds and then just gently look away for a moment and then return it again, just if it's appropriate. If they really don't seem to want the eye contact, don't do it. But usually people are fine with 4 to 5 seconds. If you look at someone 100% of the time, it's kind of creepy. Yeah, so don't do that.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is it's easier to keep eye contact when you're listening than when you're speaking. So if you have to look away more often when you're speaking, that's really normal. And that may be another way to kind of manage if the parent is sending you signals that it's making them uncomfortable, is that now you can look at, your forms or your assessment, what I mean? You can keep looking away so that they don't get to that uncomfortable feeling. Now, if you're uncomfortable with making direct eye contact, just keep in mind that it takes time to get comfortable with this. You're not going to do this today, but you have to practice or you'll never get there. So it's going to be a little bit difficult at first, but it's really invaluable because that is one of the most dominant senses we have is, the windows to our souls. So if you're trying to establish instantaneous trust, the eyes frequently are the fastest way to do it. So, but I love that that feedback, Fatima, because you're absolutely right. You need to also be interpreting how they're receiving what you're doing.
I think too, if you think about when you are speaking with someone that maybe is in a position of authority over you and they don't make eye contact with you, how that makes you feel as their subordinate, right? It's like, well, they don't even see me. They don't even care.
Yeah.
And so if you are dealing with someone at a hospital, they may see you as somebody that's in that position of authority. So it's really important to make sure that they feel seen, even if it's just for a few seconds.
Absolutely. All right. So practice. God, doesn't she have beautiful eyes? I would love to have those eyes. Okay. Now, this one is, I don't even know that you can do this, but let me just talk about it for a minute and then I'm going to ask you. So, and this also, of course, all of this extends outside of, when you're at bedside. It can be, it's not going to work over Zoom, but all of these factors are just as pertinent for personal relationships, for peer-to-peer relationships with your supervisors. I mean, this is general communication, but we're trying to just kind of hone in on the way you can use it because you're in this really restricted time crunch. I want you to think about the very different messages given by a weak handshake. If you ever had somebody shake your hand and it's like this little, it doesn't even feel like they're really making contact with you. Somebody gives you a warm bear hug. Somebody gives you a patronizing pat on the head. I hope they don't, but, or if somebody like grabs your arm, like a controlling grip on your arm, you have a strong emotional or physiological response. Now, of course, again, it may not be appropriate when greeting a new parent to touch her in any way. Or the elbow thing, if you can do that, I found that really fascinating that it spikes what they're calling compliance, which means they agree with what it is you're saying. 78% increase just by touching the tip of their elbow for half a second. And again, I don't even know if you can get that close right now. That's what I kind of want to hear from you, how you're doing this. But even if you can't touch their elbow, a handshake can be possible or not. I don't know because of the pandemic. So I'm going to ask you. So basically this one's a judgment call, but you can use this little elbow thing outside of the hospital room. But we just wanted you to be aware of the power of touch because it is so powerful at an unconscious level. So here's what I want to know: two things. One is, when you go bedside, has the pandemic affected where you don't touch the mom at all? Or do you extend your hand to shake their hand when you introduce yourself? No, you don't.
We don't introduce ourselves with handshakes. And the touching is if we ask permission, and only like if like maybe we have to hand her the baby if she's by herself, or things like that. But
Okay.
mhm.
All right. So that one may be one that you can't use at bedside, but you can use in general. But keep it in mind. And if we ever get past the pandemic, maybe you can go back to like extending a hand or, make some kind of physical contact if it's possible. And again, it's completely a judgment call. It's going to be different in, many situations. Thank you.
Teresa,
Yes.
there's a couple of things that I've noticed now that you mentioned it, with pandemic, how introduced. Before I used to give a hugs or touch the person and not even ask, and I would just be me. And yes, the majority of times, I'm very well accept and receive, my approaching. But I notice now when I'm out there in the community, people kind of turn their sides when you're trying to give a hug. They turn their side, they give you just the shoulder.
Yeah.
But I noticed I ask permission now. Before I have to be honest, I was just me and touch the person, the shoulder, or give it a hug. Didn't ask, but now I do ask because I notice that people either turn in their side and just give the shoulder or kind of just like back up. So I ask. Now I find myself asking.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That I was really curious because you mentioned patting on the shoulder. Like I used to be a person who would just automatically, pat someone on the shoulder and say, oh, that's great or whatever. And I don't touch anybody anymore. It's done some strange things to us and I don't know if it'll go back, but The fact that you notice their body language is what your cue to
Yes.
go, okay, don't do this. See, so it works both ways. And you want to just be really in tune with that. So thank you for that.
I'm the same, Tina. I'm a big hugger. I'm a big squeeze their arm kind of a person. And now I just realize I'm probably being creepy. I need to just at least ask, like you said.
Well, and it's just so, I mean, conscientiously, you don't want to do anything, first of all, that makes anybody uncomfortable. But secondly, with this stupid virus, it's like, okay, I would feel terrible if I made someone, see, we end up like, see, I just pulled myself close, like,
Yeah.
don't touch anybody. So hopefully it, it relaxes a little bit, but for now, then, just don't use the touch or ask. That's a good
Yeah,
one too.
asking.
All right, good. All right. Now, when you speak, other people read your voice. It's not just what you're saying, it's how you say it, in addition to listening to your words. Things that pay attention to include your timing and pace. Okay, this is what they're paying attention to. Sorry, I said that a little wrong. Your timing and pace. So you don't want to go in and go blah, 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 as fast as possible because you've only got 7 minutes before you get interrupted. I know that's a big challenge. That's a little bit of a dichotomy, but you want to just, they're going to pay attention to that. So your timing and pace has to do with, are you calming? Are you do you sound confident? Do you sound knowledgeable in your tone, not in the words? And then how loud you speak, your tone and inflection, and sounds that convey understanding. Just simple things like ah or uh-huh, like where you're again sort of validating what they're saying through your words, but it's the tone. If you go bleh, that's the same spelling as or ah, but it's the tone. That's what makes the difference, right? So think about how your tone of voice can indicate sarcasm, anger, affection, or confidence. You really want to make sure you're coming across in a way that, again, is going to further instill either likability. And, and I hope, I guess I should have clarified. When we say likability, we don't mean that you're going to become best friends, but no one's going to sign up for a service if they don't like you. And I'm not saying that's why they don't, but I'm just saying if they didn't like you for some reason, they're not going to sign up because, you're the face of it and literally the face of it, the expressions and the body of it to get someone to enroll in the program. So you really want to think about that. And especially if you're not feeling great, which we'll talk about in a minute too, but let's say you're exhausted, could be, right? Happens to all of us. Then does your tone sound like you're tired? Because if it does, that could be perceived as you're bored, you don't care, right? So you want to really think about all of these aspects of how you sound when you're saying the words you're saying. Now, I'm a big fan of the fake it till you make it for a lot of things, but this is not one of them. Unfortunately, you really probably can't fake it until you make it with body language. It is so innate. We don't think about it consciously most of the time. And so if you try to fake it, then it's going to come off looking fake. So there are, I don't know, gazillion books and websites that offer advice on how to use body language to your advantage. But even like what we're saying today. So, we're telling you, how to sit or, how to put your hands or the touch thing, like there's a ton of information out there. And a lot of it is about, that's available is about appearing confident or even to assert dominance, which is not what we're teaching today. But think about the fact that if you think about people like actors or politicians, they hire expert consultants and practice with them in order to persuade people. And that's really what you're trying to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like any of the books on persuasion. They feel underhanded to me. I did a lot of research last year, actually, I was going to do something with the outreach specialist, and I didn't like it. I didn't like what the books were saying, but check it out for yourself. But I want you to think of a politician's body language. Do you really believe when you see a politician standing in front of a factory and he's rolling up his sleeves like he does this every day? Do you believe him? No, somebody has told him to use that body language to connect with those people. And because it's so unnatural, we know it's fake. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to walk into a room and do your eyebrows, go do anything that's not natural. So I'm going to say this multiple times in our short time together today. Practice at home with a mirror, with family members, with a friend. That's actually would be kind of fun to just practice. But Anyway, don't practice on the clients. Okay. So how many politicians have you seen gesture with their hands in a position that their fingers are touching? You seen this? They're like, and I want to tell you now. I've seen Nancy Pelosi. I've seen, I think almost every politician do it. It's always this. The Clintons did it. I think both of them, like this whole thing with this, it's like the okay sign, but it's
Well, all of
close.
them, yeah, they have like their hand is like this, and they're kind of like almost like they're holding a wand, and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
telling you
Okay.
this stuff. Yeah.
That's not natural. Do you walk around talking like that? That's not natural. But probably some psychologist has put something out there that these consultants teach because they're utilizing body language that sends this unconscious signal to the brain of authority, decisiveness. But so see, this sort of pinched and pointy thing is sort of the authority and decisiveness. But see, you can see the palm of my hand. And now we're back to that again. So when the palm of the hand is visible, then that means you are trustworthy, likable, you are not a threat. So I think that's where that came from. I can't prove it, but I think that's where it's just so weird to me. So now I'll give you an extreme example, which is former President Trump. So experts know that if you keep your hands in front of you in the torso area with palms showing, your likability dramatically increases. But I think we can agree that perhaps he uses it to an extreme and doesn't stay in the box. And so what I mean by that is I have to see me to see if you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So I guess I'll stand up. If you keep your hands between here and here, so you can talk like this, right?
He does this a lot too.
Pretend there's a box here and you want to kind of keep your hands in that space. You don't want them out here. You don't want to do the whole Trump thing. You want to keep it in the little box here. Okay. And so that can be multiple ways. The easiest way is as you're talking, just kind of put your hands down. You're making a point, right? So you're putting your hands down. If you're not showing your palms, or if you're sitting down, you can sit with your palms on your lap right up so that they can see your palms. If it's unnatural, you can just with one hand, so I'll frequently do like this when I'm talking. So I'm moving and you can see it periodically, right? So that's all. It's a trick. It's a trick of the trade for anyone who does public speaking where they're trying to persuade people. But again, don't do it to the extremes of politicians.
Not this.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not trustworthy.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. Don't do that. So, and they all do it. I'm not even just picking on Trump. They all have some weird, like I said, Nancy Pelosi was just, I wanted to say, put your hand down the last time I saw her talking about something.
Gavin Newsom does that a lot too. He's always got the right here. Like,
yeah.
What are you grabbing for? What are you doing?
Yeah. Put your hands down. All right. So the truth is tricks are not likely to work unless you truly feel confident and in charge. So if you're the type of person, and I know we have some of these personalities in the group where nothing, you're fearless. So you can go in and go, okay, I can remember to move one eyebrow up a little bit and keep my palms. If you can do that, that's fine. But for most of us, it's much more effective to practice on our own. And then just slowly, as we get better at it, pay attention to it when we go into bedside. So now keep in mind that you can't control all of the signals that you're constantly sending out about you. You're still going to be conveying a lot of messages unconsciously that you don't even realize you're conveying because your body is expressing what's going on at a subconscious level. So the harder you try, the more likely your signals will come across just unnatural. So I guess we can say grace, give yourself some grace, depending on how you are and where you are and what's going on. You're not going to do this perfectly, but I cannot stress enough that if you have a limited time and the person's only going to hear half of what's coming out of your mouth between maybe being drugged or exhausted or just, spent after what they've been through, they're still going to pick up on your body language. So if you can practice this, it's really going to help you connect with that parent. All right, so let's talk about improving nonverbal communications. So if you're planning what you're going to say next, checking your phone or thinking about something else, you're almost certain to miss nonverbal cues from that parent and not fully understand the subtleties of what's being communicated. So as well as being fully present, you can improve how you communicate nonverbally by learning to manage your stress and developing your emotional awareness. And I'm sure you're not shocked that these topics are in here, but they're really important because it's so rapid. About how long are you in the room? Somebody just give me, you can just say it. Give me a few. What's your average time in a room with a mom? Before she agrees, like, I know once she agrees and you assess her, that's fine. But when you first, how long do you have realistically?
Like 40 minutes.
40 minutes before they say yes?
No. I'm sorry. Before they say yes, it varies. It could be as fast as a minute, or it could be as long as like 15 minutes.
Okay, 15 minutes. So let's say, and 15 minutes. I got another one on here. Thank you, Kathy.
1 minute if your body language is amazing and
Yeah. It depends on their feeling.
yeah.
But now just think of this. Okay, if you told anyone else they only have 15 minutes to win over a person and get them to like you and get them to trust you and sign up for a program that they've never heard of after they've just given birth or just gone through the experience with their partner, most people would say that's not possible. You guys do it every day, right? So it's possible, but that's still a really tight window. And so it's incredible that we can use something that we already have. We're already doing it, but it just takes this conscious effort to really make it effective. So what do we mean by some of this? Stress comprises your ability to communicate, period. Compromises your ability to communicate. If you're stressed, your communication is not clear, even if you think it is. So when you're stressed out, you're more likely to misread the other person, send confusing or off-putting nonverbal signals, and lapse into unhealthy knee-jerk reactions or patterns of behavior. And remember, emotions are contagious. So if you're upset, and I understand all of us live in these crazy times, and many of us have many upset moments throughout each day these days, but it's a matter of understanding that you have to get centered before you approach that person so that you're not non-verbally communicating that upset. So, and if you're upset, it's very, very likely to make others upset. So it makes the situation, like a bad situation, even worse. So one of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about you is, I would think there might be some tension on your part because, like, I don't know if it happens right before you walk in the room, or maybe we're going to talk about that. I don't know how this works exactly for you internally, but do you feel, does it cross your mind like you have a goal to meet? You have, you've got to get this mom to sign up or your numbers are going to be short, or you've got to get this parent to agree to the program because you haven't enrolled anyone yet today. So is there that pressure as you're going in, or do you do something every day? Yes. Okay.
A lot of nodding. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's really what I'm getting at is with nonverbal communication, you could be communicating that. So you put a smile on your face and you're talking, but if they're feeling that tension, they may feel pressure, right? Because you're feeling pressured. And so that's the reason for discussing these, managing stress and our emotional regulation, because it has an effect. And you may, just have, where's my share screen? Sorry. You may have never even really noticed it because you're probably thinking I'm hiding it. But again, you can't hide it. It comes out through our bodies. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by stress, or you're feeling tension, or it's the end of the month and you're way short on your goals and that's making you feel a little crazy about it, just take a time out before you go in and speak to a new parent. Okay. You want to take a moment to calm down. You want to get back. You want to make the conversation be in alignment with what you're saying. So it's a wonderful program. It's going to serve that parent fantastically. You're excited for them or happy for them, or whatever you want everything to be in alignment. So if you feel it before you go in, then take a moment even before you go in, just step back outside and say, I'll be right back, and just give yourself a minute. And we'll give you some tips of how to do this. Now, the fastest and surest way to calm down yourself and manage stress in the moment is to employ your senses. So I'm going to show you how to do this, and I'm going to just turn off my camera for a minute because I'm having some internet issues. Okay. So what I want you to do, so let's say you're feeling stressed. Maybe you do a practice in the morning to try to get, calm before the day starts, but something's happened and you feel that stress again coming up. So the quickest way that you can get everything settled down is to when I say employ your senses, it's to practice what you see, hear, smell, and touch, if there's anything to touch. So let's practice this now. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit comfortably straight with your feet flat on the floor. Take in a deep breath through the nose if you can. Through the mouth is okay if you can't. And then slowly exhale through the mouth. Now, I'm going to do this fairly quickly, but you can do it a little slower when you're really doing it. Look around and identify 3 things you can see right now. Just identify them. Now identify 3 things you can hear in this moment. What can you hear? 3 things. I can hear a clock ticking. I hear traffic and a slight buzzing from my computer. That's all. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Now, what are 3 things you can touch right now? Just touch 3 things. I can touch my microphone. I can touch my desk. I can touch my heart. Now, see if you can find 3 things you can smell. That one may not work depending on where you are right now. But if you're in the hospital, I bet you can find 3 things to smell. All right. And now just take in another deep breath. Sigh with relief. So let it out through the mouth and sigh. And this short exercise immediately brings you back to the present instead of worrying about the future, which is what's really happening when you're feeling that stress coming up. It's not about the moment. It's about what's going to happen after, right? Let me see if I can turn this back on now. I feel funny not being on camera. Okay. All right. So you can also calm your stress down through a soothing movement. So that may be carry a picture around if you have an adorable child or a pet.
I was also going to say, speaking of the picture of the child, if you have a success story and maybe you have a picture of that family or a picture of that child, that would be a great reminder right before you go into that room of why you're there. And that it's not about your numbers. It's really about helping these families.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You can use a favorite scent. Our power of smell is insane, right? So if you love the smell of, I don't know, a flower or a perfume or a cologne or some kind of lotion, but just carry a little with you and just smell it when you feel yourself starting to get stressed. You can listen to a certain type of music, whatever soothes you. So that may be something you can do, like maybe with your earbuds before you go into the room, or you can squeeze a stress ball, like the typical, stress management tactics. But what you're looking for is, and we're giving you this really quick hit because you don't have much time, right? So you've got to do something that as you feel it rising, you want to get it right back down so that you're centered and calm when you walk into the room. Do any of you have any, I don't know, stress tips that you use? What do you do when you're feeling stressed before you walk into the room?
I do. Before I go into a clinic or before I go and do a presentation, I can feel when I'm anxious or tense. So I just take a quick breathing and breathe out. And I said, okay, you can do this, kind of like let it go. And it works for me, just taking the moment of breathing in and breathing out and reaffirm myself, like, you got this.
Good.
And
breathing it's the best thing you can do because you got to breathe anyway, but that breathing really works.
Yes.
If you're going to breathe, and I don't know if you do this, Tina, but if not, you can try this. If you breathe in shorter than you breathe out, so a shorter in breath and a longer out breath, that's going to turn on your parasympathetic system. So we've got in the chat, big smile, deep breaths, deep breaths. Good. Okay.
I want to say mine.
You do, Fatima?
Yeah. We have to gel in when we go into the room. And so I just take my time really just gelling before I open the door. And then it gives me time to breathe while I'm gelling, and then I go in.
This is a new verb, gelling.
That's a good synonym. I was just going to say I'm gelling. That's good.
Instead of chilling, don't bother me. I'm gelling. That's great. Okay, good. All right. Excuse me. Whoops. Oh my goodness.
So really, the deep breath out is really like, especially even when I'm teaching yoga, we're trying to get you to push all that out and then get in something new,
Yeah, exactly. Again, since everyone responds differently, you may need to experiment to find the sensory experience that works best for you. But so, some people have a stronger sense of smell. Some people prefer auditory. Some people prefer like the gelling because you're touching, which also helps calm you down. If you put your hands over your heart, that sends a very strong signal to the brain of empathy or compassion, so that you get feel good hormones. They're all just really quick hits. All right. So the best way to make this a habit, a consistent habit where you don't get stressed, you don't let your mind go to your numbers or what time you have to pick your child up at school or whatever you're thinking about in the future, excuse me, is emotional awareness. So in order to send accurate nonverbal cues, you need to be aware of your emotions and how they're influencing you. So you also need to be able to recognize the emotions of others and not just their potential client. You've probably got other family members in there, you've hospital staff, like whatever's going on. It's like an emotional snapshot of what's going on in the room. And the true feelings behind the cues they're sending, right? So this again goes to whether it's facial expression, body language on their part, or anybody else that's in the room. You want to be able to just notice it and identify it at a more conscious level instead of just automatically responding to the unconscious part. And this is where emotional awareness comes in. So one of the things that we sent to you, we're not doing it today because of time, but we sent to you the 4 areas of emotional intelligence, as well as the quick emotional intelligence self-awareness assessment. And that is a very short evidence-based assessment that kind of gives you an idea in the different areas of emotional intelligence where you are right now. And so I just want to explain it so that you can do it on your own. And it's really helpful because we change constantly. So depending on what's going on in your life, one area of your emotional intelligence may be much stronger than the other, the other 3. Let me pull it up. And so when you take the assessment, it's going to tell you which area. Well, what I suggest is you look at there's 4 areas. You look at the one where you scored the lowest, and then you can go to this sheet to see what can I do about this. So if it's self-management that you score low on, then you can learn skills for breathing and relaxation, right? That's going to help you with self-management. We mean self-regulation. If it's relationship management, you can learn skills for healthy assertiveness is one, for example, because usually when there's a relationship problem, it's because you're not speaking your voice or not, standing up for yourself or whatever. So these 2 go together is my point. And some of you have already taken the assessment in other workshops that we've done, but we always recommend you complete it periodically to determine where you are now. Because this is an area where there are times, this is all I do every day is emotional intelligence. And yet, depending on how my life's going, I can go up and down in different areas, and so can you. So take the assessment, look on here for some tips of how you can improve that area. And the higher you go in emotional intelligence and emotional awareness, the more this ties into being able to sense what's happening in your own body language and your facial expressions, and helps you read the other people much better. And if anybody has a question about it, just let me know. But and I'm sure Melissa will drop it in the chat box in case you don't have it. But it's just, thank you. It's really an easy and effective way to check in. And we need to check in so that we're not sort of, we're not projecting out onto other people, and especially not potential clients. All right. So some people say, I'm fine. I don't care. I don't want to do this. I want to say there really are benefits of increasing emotional awareness. Many of us are disconnected from our emotions now, and this has gotten drastically worse over the last few years, or we're overly connected on the negative ones. But it's especially strong emotions like anger, sadness, or fear. It's kind of like everybody's to the point of they've had enough stress and they just don't want to deal with it. So they're disconnecting from it. And sometimes it's because, or in general, when there's not a pandemic, it's because we've been taught to try to shut off our feelings. But while you can deny them or numb them, you cannot eliminate them. They don't go anywhere if you don't do something with them. So they're still going to be affecting your behavior. And that includes your unconscious behavior, which comes out in your body language. So by developing your emotional awareness and connecting with even the unpleasant emotions, you'll gain greater control over how you think and act. So if you're not sure how to do this, one of the best ways, you'll be shocked to hear, to start developing your emotional awareness is practicing mindfulness meditation. And we have a full guided meditation on our YouTube channel for facing difficult emotions. So if maybe you've been avoiding dealing with something, mindfulness meditation really is an effective way to kind of open it up. Now, a lot of people are afraid to do this because they think they're going to feel bad. So I want to give you a little mini version here, or a little demonstration, and you can certainly turn off your camera if you like for this, so people aren't watching you. But what I want you to do is I want you to, and if you don't have an emotional difficulty right now, that's okay. Still do this so that you at least know how to do it when you need it. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit comfortably, and just kind of as you begin to settle into your consciousness, imagine that you're accompanied by someone or something that brings you immense comfort. So it might be a person you're going to visualize, a person who makes you feel good, or like a parent or a good friend. Or maybe you have a lovely pet that every time you hold that pet, you feel loved or comforted. Or sometimes it could just be like a favorite blanket or a chair, anything you find solace in. And just let that comfort kind of envelop you. And then now that you've identified a comforting presence, you're going to turn your attention to something that might be troubling you. And until you've had time to practice this meditation, just try to focus on something smaller at first. So something that definitely carries an emotion, maybe a little bit strong behind it, but not like the biggest troubles you have in life. Start small with baby steps. And then maybe there's something going on that you wish was different, or perhaps something about yourself you're not happy with, or even just something on your to-do list that you are not looking forward to. There's no wrong choice here. So if you feel too uncomfortable thinking about anything, you can always just stop, including right now. Take in a deep breath and turn your attention elsewhere. But once you've found the issue you're choosing to work on, then you want to bring out your curiosity, which in mindfulness is like in Buddhism is your beginner's mind. So when your attention is focused on this area, you're just going to begin to identify your feelings with curiosity. So it's like, oh, anger. That's interesting. I wonder why I'm feeling anger about this, or fear, or sadness, or impatience, or confusion. So you're just going to pay attention to what emotions are rising to the surface and look at them like you've never seen it before. You're just curious. What's this about? And you notice your emotions or feelings without judging yourself for experiencing them. We feel how we feel, so there's no judgment involved. Just notice them, be curious about them. They're going to pass, you'll notice if you keep watching. And also notice where you feel any of this emotion in your body. And then now you can perhaps try to soften your reaction to the feeling or emotion. Maybe you felt very intense about it, but you can just play with, what does it feel like if I don't give it that much energy? Imagine yourself dealing with the feeling the same way you would a child or a pet in distress. So you wouldn't say, oh, what's wrong with you? Why are you feeling that way? Which may be what you're saying to yourself. So instead, treat yourself like your inner child, or like you would treat something that you love or someone that you love. Think about how your reaction might be different if you just were a little kinder about it, a little more gentle, more tender. Now, see if you can remain curious, spending time with yourself long enough to connect with what you're noticing or feeling, but not allowing yourself to become overwhelmed. You're just looking at a feeling. That's all you're doing. There's no danger. You're safe. You're just looking with curiosity. And then without pushing away the difficult emotion or event or feeling, begin to bring a positive experience to mind. Could be something about that person or pet that you've got with you in your visualization. Maybe something that makes you feel happy or grateful. Or maybe you just feel comfort from anything that you're doing. Just think about something that gives you warmth. And now focus on your breath. So just notice how your breath feels moving in and moving out of your body, and slowly return to the present moment. And if your camera's off, please turn it back on. So that was really a quick demo of that, but you can do that like again, and there's lots of guided meditations on the internet. So find one that resonates for you and just practice that if you think you're bottling up emotions, if you're tamping things down, if you're trying to avoid, because you don't want to do that, that's going to come out in your body language. And you certainly don't want it to happen when you're working, right?
I did put a link to our playlist of guided meditations in the chat box in case later you kind of want to look at them. That difficult emotions one is in there. So
thank you very much. All right. Now, I think you're all empathetic or you wouldn't be in this business. So, but people can sense empathy, right? Without words. So I'm just going to briefly cover a few things here. Practice engaged, active listening. That's going to improve your empathy. And try not to continuously take notes at the beginning if you're doing that, so that you get that chance to connect without something in between you and the person. You want to adopt empathetic mannerisms. Empathy can be communicated by being fully present. So again, these meditations really help with that by having squared shoulders, a soft focus in your eye contact, nodding of your head, periodically reflect back to them what you heard them say. Use your eyebrows. Eyebrows express empathy really well. Now, no one body part's going to, ever cut it, but your eyebrows convey a lot. Like Melissa was saying, like even just watching eyebrows move, it's a big impact, right? So when you shift your eyebrows upward slightly as you tighten your forehead, kind of not a scrunch, but just a little bit, then what that conveys is that you're concerned about this person. So you're there to support them. You're concerned. You want to help with whatever they need. Means you care, right? And if you add in a little squeeze of your cheeks and purse your lips just a little bit, and again, you're going to have to do this in front of a mirror, and even tilt your head slightly, that actually is a powerful connection with the other person. So just keep that in mind. As Melissa mentioned in the video, mirror the other person's body language. That also expresses empathy. Try to relax your face, okay? Because some people, this is not natural. And so you don't want to be so tense and concerned with what your face is doing. So if this is not your natural state, just relax your face, right? And then of course, sincerely smile and nod as you go. And I think you probably all do that already. All right, well, we're at the end. So now I'm going to ask two things. One is Patrick has an evaluation that he's going to put in the chat box for you to complete. And I'm just going to show you, there's some resources back here, a couple of articles that you can find online. Plus, there's a really good book called Conversational Intelligence if you're looking for more tips on the verbal part, and it includes body language too. And then I just want to ask, like, okay, so what do you think? Do you think you do a lot of this consciously, or is most of it unconscious and now you have some ideas of things you can do in practice? Yeah, we will send out the slides. Thank you. Can you think, or can anyone give me an example of an interaction you've had with somebody? It doesn't have to be a client. It can be anybody where you knew from their body language you didn't want to talk to them right now.
I can share,
Okay.
Teresa.
Thank you.
So sometimes when you do walk into a room, it does feel like they don't want you there because the mom is just looking at her phone, or she's looking at the TV while you're, talking and presenting the program, and they're just on their phone, and you're like, so what do you think? Does this sound like something you're interested in? And then they look at you and they say, wait, what did you just say? What are you here for? It's like, oh my gosh. No. So
Yeah. This is, I don't know. I can't imagine a more sort of challenging environment to try to do what you're doing, because I can remember back when Melissa was born. It's like, sorry to say this, but if you approached me, I would have been like, could you come back in like 5 days? Because I need time to get,
Yeah. And you know what? It's so true. It's a very sensitive time, and they're exhausted, and we acknowledge that. And there's so many people going in and out of their
I was
home.
just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably just think you're another nurse coming in to prod and poke, and they're zoned out. They're not really focused on what you're
Definitely. Sometimes they're even saying, oh, here's a baby. Say, oh,
I'm going to take my baby.
Take my baby. I'm not a nurse. So yeah, but it's a very, to us, it's an honor to actually be able to be in the room with them, because like I said, it's their space, it's their time. They just had a little human being, and they're going through a lot. So we really have to acknowledge that and have that compassion, and understanding. So we
Mhm.
try to go back to their room as many times as we can, but at the same time, we have to be mindful that we don't miss other families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to juggle. And then of course you have to think about yourself. That's why. So your emotions, how you're feeling that day. You could have had a sleepless night and you've got your own baby that cried all night or whatever. And so it's really a balancing act of honoring yourself, getting yourself centered if you really are off center, like you've had a rough day or rough night or a rough encounter or whatever happened, so that you can give your best to that mom. And then not take it personally that their body language may be telling you, get out of my room, right? Because you got to go in their room. But if you can convey that empathy or that connection or get that likability factor going immediately, then I think it does help improve the chances that maybe they'll put the phone down or maybe they'll look at you instead of you feeling like you're.
Yeah, sometimes when we do encounter that, we, tell them, I notice that you're a little busy. Is it okay if I come back? Or,
Yeah. Oh,
and
that's
then they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, what? Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I was just, and sometimes they can be making, if you're assuming that they're just on the phone and they're ignoring you, you don't know if they're making the appointment for their baby for their 3 to 5 day well baby checkup.
right.
We don't know that. So you just have to be really open-minded, and sometimes giving them that when you offer, you know what, I can come back, you're eating your lunch, don't worry about it, or you're breastfeeding right now, I can come back. They're like, oh, thank you so much. And they're so grateful for that. And they're more than willing for you to come back. And so they're more okay with it.
Yeah, more connected.
Open to it. Yeah, connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, we had a question really quick. So we understand about the crossing of the arms and the hands in the back. That was so awesome for you to talk to us about that. But the other thing we were wondering is, what about crossing our fingers?
So so crossing, this is an interesting thing. So this pose, not crossing, but touching fingers, is calming. And I'm sure it's because it's like the prayer pose. So subconsciously we're like, oh, this is a person who maybe they're spiritual or comforting or something. Crossing your hands like this, the problem with it is now your palms are not showing, right? So if this is the most calming, I mean, you can't walk in doing this, no weapons. But if you have as you're talking, if your hands are moving and they can see your palms, there's an instantaneous unconscious response, which is safety. This could be that you're hiding something in your hands. I'm not saying never do it, but if you do it, then don't do it for a long time. Make sure that then you uncross your fingers, because this is kind of like a politician thing. I want you to know. So there's something going on that just doesn't make the other person feel as calm. If it's your comfort thing, a lot of people do this out of nervousness. Like if they've got they're a little bit shaky, they cross I see a lot of people even with conditions like tremors, they cross their fingers like this. If it's something like that, it's better to do it and feel confident than to mess with it and not feel confident, right? But if you can, just I don't know, it's like even when I do this, you can't see my hand, but then constantly you can, because I move it. So it's kind of like anything like that. If you then just undo it a little bit and then redo it, then they can see there's nothing in there. And again, they're not thinking it. This is an unconscious reaction, but that's a good question. Anyone else have questions? You're welcome. Questions, comments?
I think the comment about doing something to self-regulate before going into the next room is so important, because sometimes it's not just the numbers that we are worried about. It's like something that we read on the chart that's happening behind the door, like domestic violence, and that dad's in there. Something like that. And so just taking a moment to just do the deep breath, or I like to wash my hands too before I go into some rooms if I happen to have a break, and just taking a little bit longer to wash my hands. That's always really helpful. So thank you for bringing that up. It's really important. And I wish that this topic had come up way sooner in my HL journey.
Thank you for sharing, Fatima. And I have to tell you too, I don't know how you how you manage this, but I would be nervous every time just of rejection, not because of the numbers, but just to be rejected. You know what I mean? That's a human, I don't know, a human response that we want people to like us and we want them to, do what we're asking. So that you do that every day means you're very courageous. And I appreciate all the good work you're doing. And I think it's amazing that you do it because it looks to me to be a very challenging proposition. So, well, thank you very much. I guess Patrick will send out a copy of the presentation so that you'll have it, and then you have the handouts. And then, please use them. Please just practice, even pick one thing and just practice it till you get good at it. And then you can maybe move on to another one. All right, well, thank you.
Hope you all go home and practice this in the mirror
Eyebrows.
tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all.
Teresa. Thank you, Melissa. We're giving you a virtual round of applause, as Terry
Thank
would
you.
say. I put the link to the eval in the chat. If you haven't already filled it out, please do so. If you need it, let me know. This information will be sent to you as well. If you have any other questions, let us know. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks, Patrick.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.